Suns post-game show brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsay Smith here with Gerald Bourget, Saul Bookman, and Espo. And unlike Phoenix Suns, we showed up today for this post-game show for all of you so that we can have a safe space to vent. The Suns fell to the Knicks 102-83. Y'all, I'm over this already.
Look, this is...
Yeah, please start us off, Gerald, please.
Let's just get the rant out of the way. Like, tell us how you really feel.
I am never one to panic because I think we said a few shows ago that people need to adjust their expectations accordingly with Devin Booker out. But I think what we've seen over this last stretch of games is a damning indictment of what this roster currently is without its best player and how they're digging themselves into a hole that even when Book and Cam Johnson come back, they might not be able to climb back out of by that point. Because you look at the Suns record, they're 18-11 with Devin Booker. They were a 1 or a 2 seed in the West at that point in time. They were a plus 120 when he was on the floor. Without him, they are 2-7 now, and they're a minus 25. And even that seems kind to what we've seen from this roster. People have been clamoring for, let's see what DA is as the #1 option. He's going to put up big numbers. And he has for a couple of games. And then there'll be games like this where as the #1 option, he's not that guy. You look at Mikal Bridges. He's not even a #2 option right now. He's going out there and finishing a game with 10 points on 4 of 11 shooting. Chris Paul is way past his prime at this point and can't be the #2 or the #3 guy on this roster. Like, you could go up and down the roster and look at how this team is not prepared to contend. They're not prepared to win. And at this point, I don't want to say that something's fundamentally broken, but there need to be significant changes. We've been saying this for a long time. There has to be a move that shakes up the roster and brings in a legitimate difference maker. And to be honest, I don't know if you even get that before the trade deadline. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed with this team. I've always been the more patient type and saying, okay, once everyone gets healthy, they'll be fine. But I don't even know if this group is going to make it to that point. There's just so much wrong with the way that money has been allocated, the lack of a Jay Crowder trade, the lack of off-season activity. And it feels like at this point, the championship window has closed. It's not officially closed, but we're getting really close, and that's alarming.
The way this current roster is constructed, I've said it for the last 2 months. The fucking window is closed. It's closed. There is no way, barring Deandre Ayton possibly becoming all of a sudden an all-world player, which is probably not going to happen. I'm 99% confident of that. It's just not going to happen because Devin Booker doesn't have a #2 to reliably go to, even when he comes back. There is no support system whatsoever that can consistently produce at a high level enough for this team to be a consistent contender in the West or in the NBA period. And I'm going to say this, Gerald, you had pointed out a couple times last year where, just be patient when things were going a little bit rough or whatever. And that Monty, the phrase that I think he used was, Monty has a lot of faith and is very, he's very patient with the players that have been there for the long haul, right? Mm-hmm. And when we would talk about Aaron Holiday, for instance, like, Monty just will not veer off of Chris Paul or Payne to give Aaron Holiday minutes when it was absolutely necessary. Well, guess what? We're in a point right now where it's absolutely fucking necessary to you got to play with the lineup. These bums gave you 11 points in the first quarter. 11. And still, it took to the fourth quarter before Dwayne Washington finally got a little bit of burn. And oh my gosh, he is the third leading scorer on the night in just a quarter. Like, it just blows me away that Monty will not adjust his lineup depending on what he's seeing from his team on a given night. The whole first half, after the whole first half, you should have been like, okay, I'm throwing out the playbook. Whatever I thought I was going to do, it needs to be completely scrapped. So I think what we're seeing right now is Monty Williams is absolutely getting blown out of the water in terms of his coaching ability at this level. It's absolutely atrocious, the fact that he cannot adjust from game to game based on what the players are giving him night after night. Clearly, your team is inconsistent. How can you not recognize that as a coach and figure, okay, tonight's not Payne's night or tonight's not Chris Paul's night. Let me adjust it a little bit. Let me cut back Chris Paul's minutes, give Payne a few extra. Or, okay, both of them don't got it going. Let me give D-Wash a little bit of burn. Damian Lee gets he has a pretty good game for a little bit, but he only played 9 minutes through like 3 quarters. I don't understand what the fuck Monty is doing at all.
Well, it's an indictment of Monty, but it's also an indictment of the roster Jones has put together. If we're sitting here clamoring for guys on 2-way contracts to be playing significant minutes, something is fundamentally wrong with the roster that you have created. And I know Jay Crowder choosing to sit out plays a part in that, but you're right. Like tonight, Dwayne Washington should have gotten earlier minutes. I know you're trying to work Payne back in and you're trying to work Landry Shamet back in, but at a certain point, like, halftime, you should have veered course and given other guys minutes. And that is a frustrating thing with Monty. I'm not going to go out and say, a guy that coached them to 60 some wins last year is getting blown out of the water coaching wise, but it is frustrating some of the decisions he makes with his rotation. But again, it goes back to this rotation is garbage right now, just no matter how you want to slice it. Like you could have put Dwayne Washington and he could have dropped 25 to 30. They still were going to lose this game with the way that they played.
Look,
go ahead.
You can go ahead, Lindsay. I'll give you the floor.
Sorry. I feel like it's both of them, to be honest, and they both equally deserve whatever slander we want to throw their way. So Euphoria in the chat said, here for the tank. If you're going to tell me 2 unhealthy players changes your team that dramatically, then the team pieces don't fit to begin with. We need big changes. And you're exactly right, Euphoria. Like you miss Cam Johnson and Devin Booker, and this is the squad that you have. And then as far as so that's a James Jones issue, right? But then as far as Monty goes is, that this is what you have to deal with. Your goal right now should be to stay above water until you get those 2 guys back, specifically Devin Booker. So while those 2-way players may not be the answer long-term, they can be the answer right now. You need to win games while Devin Booker is sidelined. And if those 2 are the 2 that help you win games, then by golly, play them.
And that's my thing is that it's not just the fact that they're losing. It's when they lose, they fucking get blown out of the gym by some scrub ass teams sometimes. And you're like, what is going on? And it's just that failure to adjust. For me, it's I think a large portion of this is on Monty Williams. Like I know James Jones is going to get his blowback, and I'll let you guys take care of that part. I'm going to focus on Monty because I think he gets far too much credit for what Devin Booker and Chris Paul did last year versus what is really happening this year when you actually have to coach and show your merit as a high level NBA head coach. He's fallen apart. He's done that this year. He's fallen apart.
Look, the best thing that ever could have happened to this Suns team was Devin Booker's injury. And I know it sounds crazy, but let me explain. They got to see that this is not a championship caliber team. Even with Devin out there, this team is not getting any further than they got last year. Something has to change. And I think we're at a point where you may be looking at this being a filler year and cleaning the deck and clearing the deck for next year and figuring out how you can get in a better place from a cap situation and roster flexibility situation to put yourself back in the conversation next year, because the conversation this year is over. So can you potentially move a Chris Paul? Can you find a way to move him with some of your other expirings, get creative, bring maybe draft capital or young players back and clear your cap space for next year? Like, I don't want to tank, but I also want to be realistic about where this team is. And right now, the way this is constructed and what you're seeing is you're going nowhere fast right now. Even if Devin Booker comes back and they have to fight back they're closer to the 10th seed than the 1 seed now. They're 2.5 games ahead of, I believe it's Utah in the 10th seed right now. You are a play-in team as it is. Devin Booker is going to have to scratch and claw and do everything in his power whenever he comes back just to get you back out of the play-in is what's happening now. And if this were happening with energy, with enthusiasm, they were trying their asses off and it wasn't working, that's one thing. But right now, They look defeated the second they go down in a game. There's nobody that can shoot at the moment. Overall, everything just looks like the wheels have completely fallen off. And that can't happen just because Devin Booker's out. We got in the discussions and the arguments, who's the number 2? Right now, I'm wondering who's the number 3. Do they have that guy at the moment? Because nobody's even stepping up to where I feel like, oh, when Devin Booker comes back, that's your 3rd best guy, and you need to get a 2nd best guy. I don't know what exactly can fix it at the moment, but I think we're kidding ourselves if we think Cam Johnson and Devin Booker are some panacea that cures it all. This elixir that fixes everything, because we complained about how inconsistent Cam Johnson's been over the last 2 years. Devin Booker is the heart, the soul, the scoring. He's the everything of this team, and you need to find a way to get him help now and in the future. They need to start considering how that happens. And I'm not quite sure James Jones is the guy to make those decisions yet.
I agree with you. I'm not ready to completely give up on this season, because I know that when Booker comes back, the goal is not going to be, to tank or to make the play-in or whatever. Like they're going to have title aspirations on their mind, even if that's not realistic from where all of us sit right now. But yeah, I do think it's kind of what we're seeing from this team with Booker out, with Cam Johnson out, 2 of the guys that are, arguably 2 of their best offensive pieces, is an indictment of the way that you spent 2 top 10 picks in that draft. It's an indictment of the money that you spent in the middle of the roster on Jay Crowder, Landry Shamet, and Dario Saric. It's an indictment of the lack of preparation and resources you've put into your draft strategy in recent years. Because you're not going to tell me that this team would look so listless or aimless if they had just taken Tyrese Halliburton or Desmond Bane over Jalen Smith. Like, there's just so many mistakes that I know people are sick of going back to, but they have made a significant difference in where this team is right now and where it could be. I don't want to say that they're not trying out there, but you can see they have some like weird type of basketball PTSD from Game 7, because when a team goes up on them, it snowballs so quickly. Like, they miss shots and it transfers over to the defensive end, and they were defending well to start this game, and then everything just kind of snowballed because they couldn't make a damn shot. And like, that's coaching, but that's also just this particular group. Something needs to be shaken up with them if we're going to see any difference in the next month.
So most of what you just said points to James Jones, because he's the one that made a lot of those picks. He's the one that built the middle of this roster. He's the one that hasn't made a big move. The only thing that, and I agree with Saul on this point, is the fact that they have basketball PTSD is on Monty Williams. His job is to get his team's mind right and put him in a situation to succeed, and he hasn't done that. This is rough right now.
I think there's also another part to this. I always hear the Tyrese Burton and Desmond Bane argument, which I completely agree. Obviously, on paper, that would have been the move, right? But I also do question, and this is where I keep coming back to Monty myself, is I also question how much Monty would have actually played a guy like Tyrese Halliburton or Desmond Bane in the early going to see what they actually had, right? Because those guys are getting a lot of run on those teams, and deservedly so, and they're able to produce because they're getting the minutes that they need to develop. Jalen Smith did not get that, and he's not at that caliber, and I'm not saying he is, but he is producing at a slightly higher level with the Indiana Pacers because he's getting the time that he needs to be able to develop, and he's averaging like 10 and 7 right now, so it's not otherworldly. But that's where I keep coming back to, is like, dude, it feels like you have some talent on this roster that you could have developed over the course of the last couple of years, but you keep trying to harness it and waiting for these perfect moments to be able to fit them in. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like last year, a 64-win team, a lot of games were, they were the crunch time Suns, but a lot of games were kind of on cruise control for the most part. I think you could have probably used Jalen Smith a little bit more in the early going to see, okay, can he actually give you a buddy? Instead of waiting for somebody to get hurt, throw him in there for a couple minutes, and these inconsistent minutes, it's not very consistent at all. Like, it's just all over the place with Monty Williams. So my development question for Monty, in addition to how he's being able to adjust, is my biggest concern overall with Monty. It just feels like he's relying so much on these veterans to kind of lead and approach everything on the court instead of having a plan for each player and each moment when we go into these games. Like, every game's going to be different. And for somebody that's so damn staunch in like sticking to his script, it's really aggravating, because any coach will tell you, you got to adjust on the fly. You just have to have that ability. That's what makes the great coaches, especially at a minimum at halftime. And that's where I keep going back to in this game. At halftime, you should have adjusted. But no, you just rolled out the same fucking 5 dudes that just got you mollywopped in the first half like it was no big deal. And you didn't even adjust 5 minutes in. Dude, Chris Paul was a minus 38 tonight. And I don't like plus minus, but goddamn, he was bad. He wasn't giving you anything.
In the first half, 3 of your starters combined for 2 points. Like, how do you not change the starting lineup coming out of the locker room? Man. Like that it's 100% true, Saul. There's no adjustment at halftime. And if you don't make those adjustments, what are you doing? Like, you might as well just not go back out there if you're the coach, because that's when you can make the biggest change and say, these are the things we're going to do differently because we're getting our ass kicked. If I were Monty, I would have sat everybody after only scoring 11 points and let the bench play a majority of the rest of the game to make a point. 11 points in 1 quarter is abysmal. It's ridiculous. You're not an NBA team if you're doing that.
All 11 by Deandre and fucking Mikal, by the way, who weren't even shooting lights out. Obviously, they only had 11 points combined. Everybody else was over. What are we doing?
Look, I'm not gonna say I would have started Dwayne Washington Jr. in the second half, but I get your point. There needed to be more bench play. There needed to be trying different guys. I'm not going to make excuses for that, but I will say there's a difference between Tyrese Halliburton and Desmond Bane versus Dwayne Washington and Aaron Holiday. But like, you're right. He needs to give those other guys more minutes, especially when Dwayne Washington and Ish Wainwright come in and have an immediate positive impact on the game. It's time to reassess the pecking order. And I don't know if Monty will, because he is stubborn like that about playing his certain guys.
And my thing is, this is situational, right? Like, in this particular game, let's just focus on this game.
Right.
They could not throw a rock in the ocean. But you got 2 guys, especially one in Dwayne Washington, who is a scorer. And you have him on ice cubes over here for what? What are you waiting for? Like, nobody can shoot right now. Get him in the game. See if he can give you a couple buckets. Like, if anything, it changes the momentum. It's the same argument I had last year in the 7-game series against the Mavericks, when they were getting mollywopped every single game on the road in Dallas, and they're down 15, they're down 20 in the 4th quarter or in the middle of the 3rd quarter. I'm like, clearly Chris Paul is not giving you anything. Throw in Aaron Holiday, see if he can give you a couple buckets just to give these guys a little bit of juice and see if he can change the momentum around. But Monty just does not want to do that for whatever reason. It's infuriating as hell.
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Gerald, you bring up, when they come back, they're going to have championship aspirations. Yeah, I'd love for this show to win an Oscar, but we don't do the right thing to win it, right? Like, it'd be great. I'd love that trophy and say, hey, we won an Oscar, but that shit ain't going to happen. So,
I don't have Oscar aspirations.
Again, I don't know if again, we can sit here and say this from the outside, but they're going to point to the fact that they were the number 1 team in the West when they were fully healthy. They were the number 1 team in the West even when they weren't fully healthy, with Cam Johnson out and just Devin Booker in there. My thing is, it's alarming how fucking far this team falls from a top contender in the West to not even a play-in caliber team when one guy is out. That can't happen. That is an indictment on the roster that you've put together and on whatever juju that you have for you right now, because it's not good. This team is getting whopped by the Knicks, who are a middle-of-the-road Eastern Conference team. They're getting whopped by the Rockets twice in that span. Like, they're getting beat by 40 by the Celtics, who are an actual contender in the East. That is the scary thing to me. And it can't all be on Devin Booker, because we saw how great he was playing and how much he was having to carry the load. You need guys like DA to develop a handle. You need guys like Mikal to be more consistent on the offensive end. You need Cam Johnson to stay on the court, and you need Chris Paul to shake off whatever father time is sitting on his back right now, because this team as built is just not going to contend, because it's asking Devin Booker to do too much. And that's a scary thing to me, because they are going to look at this roster and say, well, we were this good when we had Book. Let's just invest in that and put guys back in their positions. And for me, I'm officially past the point of thinking that, all of this stuff is good for the Suns. These bench guys getting extra minutes is going to somehow help when they're transferred back into their normal roles. I'm past that point. You need to make a significant move to blow up pieces of this core if you want to contend this year and beyond.
The only way this is good for the Suns is if it wakes up James Jones into understanding that this is not enough, regardless if Devin is playing or not. That's the only positive that you can take out of this, is that we're seeing what happens when you don't make moves that your team desperately needs. Again, regardless if Book is playing or not. We do have a super chat. Go ahead.
I would just say real quick, before the game, I said I highly doubt that like DA would get traded or anything like that. I will say this: after watching this stretch, and especially after watching this game, I definitely feel like everything is on the table. DA is a little bit more complicated because he has the no trade clause that he can waive any trade to whatever city this year. But if you're looking at a potential move this year, Mikal, I feel like is at the top of the list in terms of trade value around the NBA that you can get something legitimately good for if you throw in some additional draft picks, because he's just not playing up to the level you need him to on the offensive side of the ball. He's kind of disappeared of late, and I think you can get tremendous value back for him. So I think Mikal, to me, if I had to rank Suns players, I think Mikal's right at the top.
Okay, so a couple super chats. First and foremost from Trevor. Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate you. Said, we cannot rely on D-Book to save us now. If we rely on him again, he can re-injure something again. Monty is showing he cannot adjust without Book. This has been brought up quite a few times in the chat. The concern that if all of our eggs are in the basket of Devin Booker being our savior, are we putting too much pressure on him to, one, return far too early like he did on Christmas Day and got even more hurt because of it, or two, overextend himself and get hurt because of that? And then it's just like, then that snowballs into what we're dealing with right now. Like that, and that's not fair to put on Devin Booker's shoulders. Just like back in the day when we were a 19-win season, it wasn't fair to ask Devin to be the only guy on this team who was capable or willing to contribute in those ways. Like it's just not cool.
I do want to say this in response to that, right? If you go to every team's number one, and if they lose their number one, if Denver loses Jokic, if Giannis is gone from the Bucks, if Luka's gone from the Mavs, I think you see something similar going on with those teams as well. Like they're heavy parts of those teams. Now, will their fall off be as far down as what the Suns have shown from time to time? You would think maybe like a team like the Celtics, probably not. They lost Tatum or the Bucks because they have Middleton and Holiday. But the Suns, that's what's bothering me, and I think that's what's bothering most of this fan base, is that it's not that they're losing. It's how bad they're losing and how uncompetitive they look when they're losing. And that's the biggest problem. And Devin Booker isn't going to save that. Like, you have to have that dog in you no matter what, whether Devin Booker's playing or not. And it just looks like this team sometimes just goes through the motions, and that's on Monty.
Yeah, look, I think you brought up the team that the Suns are most like right now. It's the Mavs. If Luka goes down, that Mavs team is not going to be putting together wins. They're going to fall like the Suns are. And that's scary because Christian Wood is an okay center, right? That's your DeAndre Ayton. Spencer Dinwiddie is a passable point guard right now. That's the level Chris Paul's at. Like right now, the Suns roster, unlike, Milwaukee or Denver, you can't go, oh, there's Chris Middleton, there's Jamal Murray, there's guys that you can look to and go, at least we know they'll score. The Suns don't have any sure thing right now, and that's the big problem.
But the question is like, are we cool with just being that? Are we cool with being where the Mavs are at?
No.
Because the Mavs aren't a team that everyone's looking at as, oh, yeah, they're definitely a possibility to win a championship. No, they're saying the Mavs are a good team and they have a phenomenal player in Luka Doncic, but they need more help.
Yes.
So I'm not cool with being compared to the Mavs.
No, nor am I. And I'm looking at, and I know I keep harping back to this, but looking a year down the road, looking to next year, you got to be thinking that way because there's all sorts of hurdles to get you better. And if you don't start thinking that way with this deadline coming up and everything, you could wind up having to run back something very similar, which is not an appealing thought right now.
I'm kind of in the place where, because the championship window for this season is so narrow, I'm more looking at this season as we need to see a sign or multiple signs that James Jones understands what he needs to do for this roster for next year. Because I don't want to say, you just got to dump Chris Paul and go from there. But like, there are significant changes that need to be made for this group to contend for a title next year. And for it to happen this year, you have to really thread the needle at the trade deadline. And I just don't see how that happens. I know a lot of people have been waiting for a move to happen. I don't think a lot of teams have that same urgency that the Suns do, because they don't have a guy that's sitting at home getting paid $10 million to do nothing. Like, they're more content with waiting to the trade deadline and watching a team like the Suns with lots of young, attractive pieces implode, and then maybe the Suns turn into sellers. So they don't have any incentive to like help Phoenix out right now. But I just, there are so many players that are going to be trade eligible this summer. We always hear about guys that are available. There's always the LeBron thing that's going to keep coming up. I need to see at the trade deadline, and especially this summer, if James Jones is still in that position by then, that he understands that a significant move needs to be made, that a significant superstar or piece needs to be brought in here and go from there. Because at this point, there's just too much that has to happen for this team to win a title. And those hopes kind of shrink day by day with Booker sidelined.
All right, we got another super chat. This one's from Joel. Joel, thank you for your super chat. Said, isn't it weird how DeAndre never really improved after his rookie year once Monty became coach? Monty can't develop players. I agree with Saul. This comment has also been brought up quite a bit in the chat. There's a couple of people who have said that DA was developed to play alongside Devin and not really hone in on who he can be as his own type of player. A lot of people talking about just kind of that idea
I'll stop that right there. I'm the biggest DA stan that anybody knows. And I'll say this, like, great players don't need to be told that they need to improve. Fuck that. Like, that's on DA. DA needs to step up. DA needs to put in the work. DA's got to find that dog in himself to be able to be that alpha male out there that dominates. Like, you don't have to tell guys like Jordan or LeBron or Giannis, oh, hey, you should put some more time in the gym, or, hey, you should call for the ball more. Like, no, you work on your skills, you get better, you improve year after year. But DA has had incremental improvement, and he has improved, but not to the level that we all hoped and desired him to as the number one overall pick. So I don't agree with that at all. That's just as much on DA as it would be at Monty to put him in positions to succeed more than anything else. But that's mostly on DA. As an individual player, DA has to control his own narrative more than he is. And when you go out against scrubs like the Knicks and you put up 12 and 5, nah, shut the fuck up. The offense was running through you just fine today, and you didn't do shit. That's on you.
Right. And that the idea that DA hasn't improved since his rookie season is wild to me, because people are just looking at raw box score averages if they're getting that conclusion. You want to talk about how he's become an elite mid-range shooter. You want to talk about how he's developed that spin move and right hook. You want to talk about how he's become an elite play finisher in the pick and roll. That all goes back to coaching. And it's not just Monty, because people are asking, well, lots of other guys who have developed had, personal trainers or people that work with them. Like, Mark Bryant has gotten a ton of credit for every big that's come in here being able to put up numbers until probably this year in this same system. So I don't think it's a matter of that. And I will say, like, DA, until he develops a consistent handle and until he gets more moves in his bag and gets better awareness for when doubles are coming, like, we're seeing what DA as a number one option is. People always talk about, well, if he goes to a bad team and puts up numbers, yeah, he's going to put up numbers, but this is kind of the result that you're going to get. We're seeing it right now. So I always go back to DA is a fantastic third option. He's not quite a second option yet, and he sure as hell isn't a number one option. And I would argue that Monty and the coaching staff, especially with Chris Paul and Ricky Rubio joining, made him more efficient than ever.
maybe I'm off base with this, but to me, a lot of this starts to point back at Chris Paul. His game has changed significantly this year. He's kind of dropped off in numerous ways. He's a guy that traditionally has over time graded on his teammates to a point where it's become an issue. When you mix that guy's tough on me and will call me out and yell at me in practice for X, Y, and Z with this guy isn't very good out there on the court anymore, is that potentially something that's been detrimental to this locker room, to this team? And not just his play, but how much maybe he's wearing on guys now off the court because he's just not that guy that you're willing to accept taking shit from when he's the one also being part of the problem out there on the court.
Well, Psycho Blue did send us a super chat and said, CP Wee this year reminds me of Brett Favre at the end of his Vikings tenure. He was washed and the culture tanked with it. Yeah. I've actually seen quite a few people on Suns Twitter talk about how if we praise Chris Paul for the culture that he helped develop and bring to the Suns when he first got here, then he should also be responsible for the culture as it is now, which feels like it's a little more in the dumps than what it was.
I would say that Chris Paul is more like Brett Favre with the Jets than he is right now with the Vikings. Like, because at least he got to the he got to the NFC Championship with the Vikings. Chris Paul ain't getting to the Western Conference Championship as is right now. Like, I they say that when Father Time hits, it hits pretty hard, and that's just what it looks like right now. Now, I will say this. We've seen the same thing, and I'm only going to use this comparison just because it's all I can relate to right now with Tom Brady. Tom Brady looked like dog shit all year long until about the last 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden it kind of kicked in. Now they might make the playoffs. I think they're about to make the playoffs. So, like, you're hoping that that's going to happen with Chris Paul, but basketball is such a different sport. It looks like, honestly, it looks like I wish I was sitting courtside, and Gerald could probably speak to this if he's been around the court from time to time. It looks like teams are just like, man, fucking shoot. Like, shoot. Like, we're just going to guard. We're going to sag off so you don't get the passing lanes as much, and we're going to force you to be the scorer that we don't think you can be. And he's proving them right.
Well, yeah, I think if you're going to put any blame on Chris Paul, it's all on the court stuff. I don't think anyone on the Suns roster would echo the idea that he's kind of been grading on his teammates, and that's the reason the culture's diminished. The reason the culture's diminished is because they're not winning games anymore. Like, because they're losing. When you lose, you can talk about culture all you want. It doesn't mean shit. That's what we saw with Earl Watson for years.
Yeah, but isn't culture supposed to help you sustain these downs? Isn't that the whole purpose of culture?
You're missing 2 of your 4 best players. Like, I don't. It's, to me, it's all on court stuff. I'm not going to talk about shit that we don't see behind the scenes when there's no evidence other than W's and L's that the culture's deteriorating. That's
to be fair
for me.
I'm not talking about Chris Paul behind the scenes. I'm talking about Chris Paul on the court. Like, he should be the leader as far as the energy to start games. Like, yes, he's an older player, but
why is the 37-year-old? Why is the 37-year-old the one that's responsible for the energy? Why is it not the 2 20-something-year-olds who are your franchise cornerstone?
Isn't that responsibility on the leader of the team?
Devin Booker is the leader. That's what we've been talking about.
And when Devin's not in there, is Chris Paul not the leader? Yeah, there has to be somebody who steps up, right?
He's 37 years old. You need your franchise cornerstones, the guys that he's intentionally playing off the ball for to get more looks. Those are the guys that are supposed to be leading the culture or leading the charge.
Okay.
Like, you can talk about how washed he is, but you guys are all reaching as far as like saying, oh, Chris Paul's grading on his teammates again because that's what he does.
I didn't say that at all.
Could it be an explanation? Because it's not asinine to bring up something that he's done multiple times in other cities, right? This team was 9-5 while he was out. They're 4-9 since he's come back. I get that Devin Booker isn't there, but I also understand when you look at it that they have looked significantly different in terms of energy and effort since he's come back as well. And I'm not saying that it's all just him, but at some point, if he's always been 1B to Devin Booker's 1A as a leader, and he's supposed to be the leader of these young men as well. And if we're going to point our fingers at Monty, the off the court coach, he's supposed to be the on the court coach. And there's something significantly wrong with him out there on the court right now.
But that's fine. That's different than saying the culture is deteriorating because of him. There's a fucking line between those two things. There's a big gap. That's what
I didn't say the culture is deteriorating because of him. I said he is the top or one of the top people who should be responsible for the culture in this Suns space. Monty, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker are the three main leaders of this squad. So if we're already bashing on Monty for what he is unable to do or hasn't done yet, and Devin's out of the picture, he's not even on the road trip, then yeah, I would think Chris Paul would be the guy behind the scenes hyping these guys up. It's Madison Square Garden, and they can't come out and be excited to play there.
Again, I don't think that part's on Chris Paul at all. Like, it's Madison Square Garden. Like, you can't get up from Madison Square Garden. Like, every basketball player in the world is like always dreams of playing at MSG. Like, it's just a thing. Like, so if Mikal or DA can't get up for that game, what are we even talking about? Like,
and look,
I will also say this too. I agree with your point, Espo, about wearing down on teammates in the past. Like, I do. However, I do think that this situation is a little bit different because Chris Paul came in here. I don't think Chris Paul came in here to necessarily change the entire culture, which he did anyway because of who Chris Paul is. But I think he was more trying to show Devin Booker the way forward as a leader, which he has done. And I think if you're Mikal or you're DA, you should have automatically gravitated to some of those leadership qualities that CP3 was brushing off on everybody. And then this should be your moment to take over the team because you could see that Chris Paul is failing as a basketball player at the level that he's used to being at. And that's on DA and Mikal. And I will go back. As much as I've been hard on Monty, DA and Mikal take as much of the blame as him on this entire road trip in this entire last 3, 4, 5 weeks because of the level of their play and their inconsistent manner by which they play every night with.
Look, I'm not trying to give a free pass to DA and Mikal. I mean, they deserve as much blame as we've given them. I just feel like Chris Paul has gotten somewhat of a free pass on things, and he is, as the point guard, the on-court leader. But I get what you're saying, and you bring up an interesting point. If he was training Devin to be the heart, the soul, the leader of this team, guess who hasn't been around on this road trip? Devin Booker. He's back home trying to get well. So does that throw things off too? Because the guy who is that vocal leader all of a sudden isn't there, and DA and Mikal don't exactly strike me as the guys that are stepping up to fill leadership roles because they're younger. They tend to seem a little bit more lighthearted than the Books, the CP3s. So all this starts to just become a giant issue together. When you mix it all together, I think it becomes more volatile than we expected it to be.
So just to be clear, I wasn't placing the blame of what's happening with the Suns right now on Chris Paul, because there are people in the chat who are very upset with me. And Gerald, I feel like you were very upset with me as well. I'm also not giving Mikal and DA a pass. It's absolutely on Mikal and DA as well. They should have energy because they are younger on this team. Just by age alone, they should have the most energy on this team. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about being an extension of your coach, being a leader as far as the way that we talked about it when in the 19-win season. That's what I'm talking about, is like cultural, keeping guys' heads up. Like not letting them get down on themselves or not letting them slack off on defense just because shots aren't falling, but being the person who's like, we're going to get our heads back in it. We're going to be fine. And not just letting the wet, heavy blanket just soak on everybody. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not saying Chris Paul is to blame for what's happening to the Phoenix Suns this year. That would be outrageous.
Right. And I get that, but it's harder to do that when you're not able to lead by example anymore. And that's why I was saying, like, for me, if we want to gripe about Chris Paul, it goes back to just he can't be the player that he was even last year anymore. And that's the biggest thing. Like when you're losing and a guy who is clearly a shell of himself compared to last year is trying to tell you like, hey, man, keep your head up. Who's going to listen to that? And that's my thing, is like this group, I don't think they're fundamentally broken, but there needs to be a fundamental change here soon as far as the makeup of this group is just not what it was last year. They were shell-shocked in that Game 7. They haven't fully recovered since. Injuries and Devin Booker being out have revealed that to everybody, and now teams are gunning for them because they know that they're vulnerable. There's blood in the water. The Sharks are coming, and I don't blame Chris Paul or anybody. We could go down the entire roster, Monty, James Jones, everyone on the roster, and point out something that they're not doing right. It's just a bad situation all around right now.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm allergic to alcohol, but I'm about to risk it all for some Four Peaks beer because I am hot, literally and figuratively at this moment. And if you guys have not tried Four Peaks beer or haven't picked any up recently, might I remind you how delightful it is. Also, in case you forgot, Four Peaks is also the presenting sponsor of our inaugural PHNX Tea Party at Dobson Ranch Golf Course. That is happening January 13th at 5:30 p.m. It is a Friday. We are combining.
Next Friday.
Yeah.
Next Friday, baby. Let's go.
We're going to combine Suns basketball and a heck of a lot of fun out on the golf course. So we're renting out the entire driving range, okay? So you can come hang out with all of us. You can hang out with Big Drive Energy, fellow Diehards, our friends from Four Peaks, golf, food, drinks, contests, prizes, Suns, and more. We're going to do our shows out there as well. So we want you guys to come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's $45 per person. If you are a diehard, it's only $36 per person. You can sign up as a foursome as well. That's $160 for the general admission and then $120 for diehards. If you're not a diehard, you can become a diehard and then you can get your tickets to the tea party. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We tweeted out the link earlier today from all of our social accounts. We'll drop it in the Discord. It's also in the description of this show. So come hang out with us, you guys. It's going to be a blast. I don't know how else to tell you how much fun it's going to be. Plus the heaters. We got heaters, y'all. So you don't have to worry about being cold.
And if you don't want to watch the game, you can play golf during the game and just listen to us after the game, bitch and moan about what happened. So there's that too.
Yes, exactly. All right. Let's go ahead and name our DraftKings King of the Game because we had to name one. And we got a little creative with you guys for you guys today. Espo, you want to do the honors?
Yeah, bring it up. Here we go. Drum roll, please. It's Devin Booker. He started off 2023 right with 0 secondhand embarrassment and as many points as Dario Saric and almost as many points as Landry Shamet today.
Until the final minute of the game when he ruined our graphic, but it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is a fun one. We were debating between Devin Booker, anybody who had to watch that game or anybody who skipped this game. There was a lot of options being thrown around, but we decided, why not give one to Devin Booker? Because Lord knows it might be a while before we're able to name Devin Booker King of the Game. Fingers crossed he can come back sooner than later and this doesn't drag on because struggle bus.
Is Matt Ishbia going, can we get that down to like 3 billion? Like 4 seems a little high right now.
We need to renegotiate. Also, speaking of the DraftKings Sportsbook app, we did start. Officially, it is the new year. So what we have decided is in our pregame shows, we always pick a bet of the game. And what we're going to start doing for the remainder of the season is keeping track of whose bets hit and how much money we are earning from it. We all decided they're $10 bets each time. So that kind of keeps things a little bit of an even playing field. How'd everybody do today?
The only reason this got brought up is because, Lindsay, you're the only one that got your bet right. Okay?
Is it the only reason,
Yes.
or is this something that you guys decided that I said, okay, let's do that?
No, don't say you guys decided. He's the one that wanted to
I
keep
didn't
track.
make this a thing.
I'm just going along with it.
I imagine if we had both hit and you had missed, this would have been an easy thing to gloss over to get out of the show faster than we are right now.
I mean, maybe, but that's not what happened. Now, is it?
We'll have a standings board. Don't you worry.
I missed. You know, my bet didn't hit because DA can't stop traveling down low. So that's considered a turnover. And he had 3 of them. Thanks,
Wow.
DA. Appreciate you.
Was the line 2.5?
1.5.
Oh, 1.5. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I took the under. I took the under on DA blocks tonight, and I think it was just 0.5, and he didn't get one. So my bet hit. So at least we can say that I won one because I'm not anticipating this being a normal or a continual thing for the rest of the season. But at least I can hold on to the fact that the very first time my bet hit, I won one. And if you guys are not on the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now, definitely recommend you download it, but make sure you download it using or sign up using the promo code PHNX, because when you use that promo code, you can place just a $5 pregame money line bet on any NBA team to win their game. And if they do, you are gonna get $100, $150 in free bets instantly. It is that simple with the code PHNX. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Dang, I'm flustered. I can't talk today. But we do have a few more super chats to get into, you guys. Mike B sent us one. Thank you, Mike B. Said, I'm down, but I'm not out. I doubt any of us are as Suns fan. Let's cool our cools and remember we got Book locked the Buck up. I feel we're gonna be good. You guys feeling like you're not completely out, just a little down, or are you almost out?
I get rattled by inconsistency.
That's fair.
So I'm completely out on the Suns in terms of their championship hopes. Love the team. Hope they do better. Hope they start winning some games to make me feel better about my life. But right now, I'm kind of depressed. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, long term, I feel good. Devin Booker is one of the best in the game at shooting guard. You'll figure out ways to build around him with new ownership. But short term, no. This was a season where you thought, okay, maybe you could unlock the championship puzzle, and it just feels like that's slipped away. And that's where my frustration is. You had an expectation of what this team could be, and they've proven over the last probably 5 weeks that they're just not that. And that's where the frustration comes from.
Yeah, I'm not even completely out on this season, but I have more hope in their championship hopes if something happens at the trade deadline than I do in this current group. That's where I'm at. I feel like I can't close the door until I see exactly what they do at the trade deadline, but the odds of them doing something that puts them in that window is really, really small. Like I'm kind of the opinion, if I were a betting man and I had to bet on whether this is kind of a transition year, it would be on that for sure.
All right,
Are you tanking for Wembayama?
No, I'm not.
We wouldn't even get that pick anyway.
Unless Devin Booker's groin injury holds him out until like March, then I'm saying, okay, maybe we talk about Wemby a little bit. But
it's January right now.
I know he won't be back till February, most likely. So
well, and then there's a week and a half in February that's dead time due to the All-Star break too.
Right. And that's not even saying he's going to be back at the end of the 4 weeks. That's just when he's reevaluated. He could be out for longer than that for all we know. So
I will say this though, it's kind of a blessing a little bit, because then you think for the home stretch, if they do make a move, listen, all the Suns need to do is just stay afloat. That's all we're asking them to do. Stay somewhere between 4 to 8, right? Stay there. Just live there, okay? Do like in Hitch, just stay right here. All right, don't do any of this. Just stay right here, okay? That's all we need to do in that short-term period. If they could do that, and then you get Cam Johnson and Devin Booker back, and you can make a trade that, listen, I don't think a superstar is coming, but I think somebody that could just shoot the ball a little bit more consistently, that's all we're asking for. I think they'll be okay. I don't think they'll win a championship, but I think they can compete.
Well, yeah, we were just asking for 500, basketball while Book was out. I mean, that was like the baseline. We're like, oh, if they could just do that, and they're not anywhere near that. And they were struggling at the tail end of when Book was there too. But I mean, somebody put it in the chat: 5-12 in the last 17. You're quite far from 500 right now.
All right, our next super chat's from Trevor. Trevor said, DA relies on being spoon-fed his points by lobs.
No, that's not it.
I don't think it's those hook shots and jump shots that he makes,
right. It's not just lobs, but yes, it is. It's unfortunate when you need someone to be a second option or a first option right now that DA needs the majority of his offense to come from someone else. He doesn't create much of his own offense. So I get the overarching point, but it's not just lobs, because that doesn't do his development as a jump shooter credit, or his work on the offensive glass. He gets a lot of his points there too.
I would say this, and I think, I know this is not what you're presuming, Gerald, but I think a lot of people think that means what you just said. They interpret that as being able to handle the ball and make his own moves. I would say it's not necessarily that. It's getting the ball down low on the block and stop bailing out the defense from hook shots and jumpers and fadeaways, and instead forcing the contact. In the game, they talked about how EJ and Tom would talk about the science of being a 20-point scorer, like a consistent 20-point scorer. And a large portion of that, because they were talking about Julius Randle and how he's always creating contact. Well, if you're a finesse guy and then you try to create the contact, you're never going to get the whistle. And the Suns, in large, are a finesse team as opposed to a physical team. That's why the free throw disparities are so wildly opposed to them. Like, they're just not a physical team. They need to find that brand of physicality because they're missing out on so many opportunities inside the paint, especially with DA. DA's just got to find how to be a better big man and draw more contact than he actually does. Because guys like Jokic and Embiid feel like they go to the line all the time, whereas DA goes maybe once a game, and that's too few.
Right. His reliable post moves are a turnaround hook shot with the one hand, which is not inviting contact, and it's a turnaround jumper. Like they're just inherently moving away from the basket. He never sticks his shoulder into somebody and just tries to go up over the top of them. It's just not something that's really been in his DNA to this point until he gets more comfortable with the handle, until he develops that aggressive mindset on a night in, night out basis. That's kind of what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a byproduct of the fact that he brings that ball low anytime he does try to face up, and they slap it away, and so he defaults to the hook shot, the kind of fade away, because you're not going to get the ball knocked away, and that just can't happen. You need him to figure it out, man.
Hey, I'm tired. I'm tired because they back in the day they used to teach big men. You get the rebound, you throw those elbows up because little guys aren't going to try and grab it. But now, because of the way the league is, if some guard just runs around the corner and runs into your elbow, all of a sudden it's a flagrant, right? But you know what, DA? Every now and then, you just gotta give him one of these. You know what I mean? You got to do it. You got to do it because otherwise, dudes are just never going to learn. It's the same way. Somebody's got to give Grayson Allen a two-piece, right? Those two things have to occur this season. I'm just saying, if DA did it on Grayson Allen, that's even better.
If you're gonna get a foul, at least make it worth it.
Right. But that's the thing. I think he's become too afraid of the foul, right? Because early on it was, he can't get in foul trouble, and I think he's almost scared to draw fouls. I'm fine. Go get 5. You can have 5. Just don't get that 6th. And sometimes you have to take a foul to make a point and earn that foul, right? Like you're saying, Saul, because eventually people will take you more seriously because you are willing to put the hurt on somebody physically. I mean, I don't want either of us to sound like the old man, saying get off my lawn. But yeah, there was a time where that was what you did. You just throw those bows once you get the rebound and kick it out or go back up strong. And he just doesn't have that right now. And a guy like Mark Bryant it grew up in that era, and should be able to hopefully instill that. But it does not seem like something that's overly important right now.
He doesn't have that reputation, and I think it contributes sometimes to the way that he's officiated on both ends. I think we've seen a couple of centers drive into people, barrel into them, and get whistled for a shooting foul. And we've seen DA do the same thing. There was that one game where he had that late charge, and he was just playing physical. And I think it's because when you see it out of DA, it's so striking because we don't see it all the time. And so people think, okay, well, if that happened on this play, it's because he was playing too aggressively or something like that. So he gets whistled for the foul. I think until he develops that reputation of being a more physical player on both ends, we're going to continue to see some weird whistles when it comes to DA.
He's Ferdinand the Bull. I don't know if you guys know that children's story, but Ferdinand the Bull was just tiptoeing through the tulips and was just soft and cuddly until one day something bad happened and that motherfucker turned, and he turned for the better. That's what DA needs to do. He needs to turn. Come on.
You know what that turning point I think will be? His next team, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Our final super chat for now from Psycho Blue said, Saul, I compared CP3 Game 4 Finals turnover to Favre's pick in that NFC title game. I'm talking about the season after for Favre/CP3 comp.
It makes sense.
Accurate.
As long as there's no text messages for CP3, we're all good. So.
Oh, you go for it.
Okay. So
everybody else is making the Favre comparison. So.
All right. We do have a couple more things we want to tell you guys about. It's 56 minutes into the show. We have had a lot to talk about, but I need to make sure you know about More Furniture. More Furniture has a great variety of different pieces for your home, for your office, for if you are lucky enough to have a room in your house that is like your sports cave. They've got you covered with all the things that you need. You can check them out at morefurniture.com. They hooked up our studios over at PHNX, and I told you guys in the last game, those loungers that we have in our viewing area, they will put you right to sleep if you are not careful. You can save big on the best furniture in the Valley when you head to morefurniture.com, so be sure to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a Suns game. They'll put you to sleep real quick right now. So enjoy those More Furniture seats. You know, what I enjoy right now is the Underdog Fantasy app. And we've talked a lot about, the same day fantasy, drafts that you can do and invite your friends to that. And those are really fun. But right now, their Pick'em game is one that I really love. And I'm gonna live do this. You can bet higher or lower for players in a game. And right now, I'm going to go to the next Suns game and bet lower on everything I can for this team because that's how I'm feeling. And if you get 5 right, you get 20 times your money in one of those bets. And I've had some success on this app doing the pick 'em. I love the higher lower. Lots of opportunity there, especially with the NFL season wrapping up this weekend. You're going to have a chance Saturday and Sunday to put some skin in the game when it comes to football and obviously NBA all week. So do that. And if you go over and you download the DraftKings or the Underdog Fantasy Sports app right now and use that code PHNX, you're going to get $100 when you deposit $100. It's just that easy. Again, go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app. Sign up with promo code PHNX, and Underdog's going to match your first deposit up to $100, and then you can go play that pick'em game to get up to potentially 20 times your money.
Speaking of fantasy football, all I need is 30 points tonight, and I'm the fantasy football champion. Just wanted to throw that out there.
How many guys
come on, Joe. Come on, Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon. Let's go.
Oh, it's done.
Bring Daddy the championship. Let's go. Also, I just want to say that I know it's negative because the Suns have just been not very good. But the positive is ticket prices should decrease, and you should wait till the very last minute to get yours for up to 60% off using the Game Time app. It's the best app out there to get your tickets. You can do all-in pricing, so you can see where your taxes and fees can all be. You can scout the arena. You can find the best deal and then go for it. And you can pick anywhere from 1 to 10 tickets at a time. I used it for 8 tickets down at the U of A. I think I spent like $96 for 8 tickets to sit like 8th row up in the corner of the end zone. It was awesome. We were gonna try and possibly do it next Monday because my wife is a TCU alum, Goat Frogs, and so we're gonna try and go to the national championship possibly. So maybe we'll see if we can get some quality tickets on there. But save yourself 60% on tickets when you buy the tickets last minute. The best way to support is buying your tickets through the link in the description. So do that using the Game Time app.
Guys, look who showed up because they were so upset that I was yelling. It's Bonnie. This one's Bonnie.
Oh, I thought you said Monty.
No,
I was like,
Bonnie.
Oh, shit. You named your cat Monty?
No, absolutely not. She jumped on my lap right now. I think she's like, why are you so angry? What's going on? You need to calm down.
She's your emotional support animal.
She is. I'm going to have to start bringing her into the office more often then because I'm going to need some emotional support.
No.
But look at her, Saul. She's so cute.
I have no attachment to cats whatsoever.
Oh, I will die if you bring that in.
It's for me. It's not for you.
Yeah, but our office space. I'm allergic to cats, so I'll just sneeze.
There you go.
Sure, that's what they all say.
By the way, Saul, the Girthlings want you to become the next Suns coach. Can I get a spot on the back row?
If you think you hate Monty.
No. Could you
I
imagine?
think I suck.
I think Saul would get thrown out of his first game just to make a point with the refs.
1,000,000% I would. I would. Oh, absolutely. The phrase "go back to Foot Locker" would definitely come out of my mouth at the refs, for sure.
Could you guys imagine how wild these post-game shows would be if Saul was the coach? Saul would call in, exactly.
Oh yeah,
and then we would yell at you, and then you would yell at us, and then you would yell at the chat, and then they would yell at you, and it would just be sheer chaos.
Yeah, it'd be kind of awesome.
As Connor says,
I would probably turn and be like, "Da, they said you play like whatever," and try to get him all riled up too. I could get the most out of Da. I'm positive I could get the most out of Da.
Oh boy.
As Connor says, Saul not playing Landry at all, though.
Just sit this one out, champ.
No.
That would be the page out of Monty's book that Saul keeps, but it would only be towards Landry.
Sure.
All right, gentlemen. Any final thoughts or anything else that you would like to discuss about this game?
One last thing I had is through 38 games, the Suns have officially already lost as many games this season as they did all of last season.
Yeah.
So just for some context about where we're at right now.
But to be
fair,
I didn't have them.
I didn't have them coming anywhere close to 64 wins this year, so I'm good. But if they lose another 10, I'm screwed.
We need to go back and we need to look at what we picked in our predictions for this year, because I don't remember, but it would be interesting to see and compare them to what we thought at the start of the season to where we are right now.
I had them at 55.
I had them on the under. I thought they were going to be like 50-51, and I think we're getting to the point where that might be a difficult uphill battle if Book's out too long. So
I don't know. All right. Well,
I do have one last thought. James Jones better. He's been very quiet. He's preached patience. He better have one hell of a plan and one hell of a vision for what the next 12 to 16 months for this team is, and how to continue the path forward building around Devin Booker, because the last 2.5 years were great and we'll always remember them, but the goodwill of that, I think, ended today.
I will say this too. We've during the Colangelo era, it was great because you always felt like you had a chance in the off season to make a move that would keep you invested in the team, reinvigorated, and really keep optimism high. James Jones missed his opportunity this past summer, and I think he definitely needs to recoup that, as Espo put it, right now. Like he's losing valuable time, and basically Chris Paul's window, it looks like it's gone, right? It looks like it's closed. So you need to get a valuable asset somehow, some kind of way. Hopefully he can pull a rabbit out of his hat, because I feel like that's what it's going to take to make a miracle happen right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. We'll have a show for you tomorrow at 3 p.m. So plan to come hang out with us live if you're able to. If not, you can always listen wherever you get your podcast. Until we see you guys tomorrow, you can follow me on Twitter at LindsaySmithAZ. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Devin, come back. You can blame it all on the groin. James Jones was wrong. We can't stay alive without you. Ahoy, hoy!